Hey guys, JC Smith here. Today we're going to do some battery load testing. These are the two batteries out of the one 4500 that I have, and they've been getting to a point where in the real cold snaps it would crank really slow. And there's no date on these batteries, so I have no idea how old they are. They were in the truck when I got it. Of course I bought it used. I took them out of the truck, I brought them down here, and for the last 2 days I have been taking the battery charger on one to the other, let it charge on the slow charge to see if it's, maybe just the temperature, the batteries are bad, or if we have a draw in the truck. When I pulled them out of the truck to bring them down here, the one showed like 9.8 volts and the other one showed 10.6. So they were both pretty low. But again, I don't know if there's a draw on the truck that's bringing the batteries down or if the batteries are just bad. So first thing I did was bring them down here. I had them isolated. I charged one at a time. It's very important that you charge one battery at a time separate from the other, because if you try and charge both batteries at the same time and one battery is bad, a lot of times it won't let the other battery charge, or as soon as you turn the battery charger off, it starts to drain the bad battery. So I've been charging on a slow charge, and I want to come down today and check and see where they're at. The one in the back, the battery charger is not on. I charged it on a low charge for a good while, and I'm going to check to see what the voltage is right now. I'm hoping to see 12 and a half. That would be ideal, but I don't know what we'll get here. That one's showing 1310. Now, this one in front of it is the last one I charged, obviously. And I hate to check voltage or load test the battery right after it's been on charge. I like to let it sit a while and see what it does. But let's see what the voltage is here. The battery charger was showing 15 volts. We're showing 12.08 here. 07, 06, 03, 02, 1, 12 volts, 1199. So we may just have one battery in the batch. It's 1197, 1196, 1195. It's dropping as we're talking. So it may be that there's just one bad battery, but that's not how I usually replace batteries. What I'll do is, being there's two batteries in the truck, I will replace both batteries and keep the one. If it load tests out okay, I'll keep the other one. And I'll show you what I'm going to use for a load tester. I used this before. It is a carbon pile. Well, I'll tell you what, my fingers are dry cracking and splitting, so they're not working so well. It's a little bit chilly, but this is a carbon pile load tester. And what it is you can put it on the battery and you can crank this up. There's a carbon pile discs in the back, and as you turn this, you're tightening it up and you're adding the discs so they're tighter, and they create a huge amount of resistance to load on the battery. And then it shows you here how many amps you're putting on and where your voltage is. You can see the green in here, maybe you can't, but it gives you an idea of where you want to be. On this one it's showing if your batteries are 70% charged, you don't want to be under about 10 volts, okay? You would want to be at about 12. And the other thing is I like to watch is when you let the carbon pile back off, how fast does it come back up to 12 volts? That's always another part. So I'm going to get this on here, and I'll set this up so you guys can watch the meter, so you can see what it's showing on each battery. So let me get you set up. Okay, so I'm hooked up on the first battery I showed you, and this one shows 1150 cranking amps. So what I'm hoping to see is somewhere in the 400s for a battery this old. I'm turning the carbon pile now, starting to put a load on it. And the voltmeter was showing 12 volts when we started. Okay, I'm at 10 volts now, and we're just below 10, and it's holding, and our amperage is crawling. You can see we're getting up here to close to 300. I got a good load on it. I'm just below 10 here. Okay, so we got a pretty good load on it. Let's back it off, and you can see here it goes right back to 10 or 12 volts. I mean, showing that you know, it can recover pretty good. I wish. I mean, it's a weak bat. It's not a super strong battery, but let me show you. Turn this back up. All right, we're just at the line of 10. Right, still barely in the green. We're climbing to 250 amps right now. And what we're seeing here, this is our cold cranking amps. Okay, we're right at 500, which is really what I was hoping for. And we're right back up to 12 volts here. Okay, so we'll hit this one more time. Okay. See, we're hitting 600 up to 300. I'm down to about 9.5 right now, and go right back to 12. So I wouldn't condemn this battery, but you know, it's not perfect for cold weather starting. So what we'll do is I'll mark that as marginal and set it aside, maybe use it on something else. And now we'll go to the other battery, the one that I charged last. Okay. Now see, it's already showing down to about 11 3/4 volts on this gauge. So let me get my voltmeter and see what it's showing. See if I can show you guys this here. I know this isn't ideal, but my wire leads on my voltmeter are cold, as you can imagine. You don't want to move all that well. So let's see what we got here. You guys see that? 11.47. I just took it off the charger. It was at just over 12. So I mean, we're already suspecting that this one's a little bit light, and it's showing 11 3/4, 11.5 on the tester also. So let's crank that one and see what the load turns out to be. Oh wow, look at that. I barely got a load on it. Check that out. Can you guys see the needle here? It's over here at 6 volts. I'm barely on a load at all. Yeah, I'm way down. Okay, now the load's off and we're down to about 10.5, it looks like. Let me see what it shows here. Might as well just show you guys. This is my cheap little Greenlee tester I use a lot because it's handy. I've got a Fluke 88 and a couple others, but yeah, 10.64. So, you know, when this happens, okay, so this battery, we put a load on it, now it won't come back to 12 volts. So if these two batteries were hooked together, what we would have would be one battery trying to pull itself back up to charge. It will equalize between the two. So what you end up with is you see that after load testing that, it only come back up to 10.4, 10.5, something like that, 10 3/4, and we can only get about 100 and some amps out of it. So what that means is if this battery was hooked to that battery, after we put that load on it, it would start to pull voltage from that battery until these two basically evened out. Which if you average those 12 and whatever that was, just under 11, we're going to be at 11 volts. Now, What that really means for us in this situation is this battery wouldn't, the other battery wouldn't hold, wouldn't take a load. You know, you couldn't get a load out of it. So you saw it on the meter here that we could barely get up to 100, which is about 200 cold cranking amps. Okay, so that means that the other battery, the one that's good, is doing all the work. So there is the root of our slow crank and low batteries, we think. Now, the other thing you have to consider is that there could be still a drain on the truck, which is making this battery drain down. And it's just out of circumstance that one battery is stronger than the other, so it went bad, or it wore on that battery, or shortened the life of that battery because it had a draw. So that's something else we'll check before we put it in. We want to put it in and make sure we don't have anything more than a very small milliamp draw. Like 30 milliamps is about what I'd like to see, or less, and that should be adequate for that truck. So that's that, and we get this all unhooked. I'm going to check the voltages again. So let me get my voltmeter. I want to check and make sure that what we're seeing here on the tester is really what the batteries show. So hang on. Okay, so here's my tester, and this one shows 10.88. Oops, I got my leads are backwards. You see the negative? 10.88. Okay, now let's check the other one. See if I can reach to that one. 12.45. So it looks like the one recovered very well. So in order to confirm that the other battery is good, we're going to change the tester over to the other battery. Okay, and we're going to look at the gauge again at our meter, and you're going to see it's showing the same thing, 12 point some change. About 12 and a half is what this meter shows. Now we're going to load it again. Okay, you can see the load coming up. All right, we're right at 10, and you see here we're creeping up on 500 cold cramping amps. In this tester, I'm looking for whatever it's rated to be as close to half of that as we can. Now we're dropping a little bit low here, is why I'm saying we're marginal. Of course, I don't have a good connection here either. Not a great connection. So we'll let that off because that's 600 cold cranking amps we put on it. And you can see it's starting to recover. It's up to about 12 and 12.4, something like that right there. So anyhow, so that's where we're at. That's what we're going to do. We're going to we're not going to condemn that battery. We will, like I said, we'll set it aside. We'll check for a draw on the truck. If there's no draws, we'll put new batteries in it, and it should be good to go. So I just wanted to show you guys how I test batteries and the procedure I go through. I'm sure there's probably a better way to do this with some, you know, sophisticated equipment and whatever, but I'll tell you this, I've used this carbon pile tester for years and years and years. That thing's probably 20 years old. And I mean, you may not be able to see that, but you can see where I've worn off the paint right in here from cranking on it. But it's a decent machine. I think it's pretty accurate, and it's never led me down the wrong way. And I can check charging systems with this also. If I wanted to, I could hook this up to the battery while the car is running, and I could put a load on it. Here it'll show you alternator voltage 14. It starts about 13 and a half. Well, about 13, then about 13 and a quarter, and then it says low at 14, which isn't necessarily the case. I mean, anything I like to see, anything over 13 volts is good, is acceptable. I mean, you don't want to be too high to where you're, you know, cooking your batteries, but a lot of times we'll see 13.6, 14.2, somewhere in there.
But then you can also crank on the carbon load pile while it's running, and you can load the amps on the alternator. So if you had a 100 amp alternator, you could crank the amps up and see what your output is on it, and see to make sure you're not dropping out of your load range on your voltage. So, all right guys, I'm gonna leave you with that. And if something comes up with the 4500, it's got a draw, I'll show you that. But if not, we'll just throw some batteries in the old girl. And like I always say, if you guys like what we're doing, give us that thumbs up. We appreciate it. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and leave your comments down below. All right guys, catch you on the next one.